in the city of Austin, we have sign ordinances. You can't just put up a sign for garage sales or anything like that. This is a signpost of the 7 deadly sins. And what would be more appropriate than to put this signpost down at the code compliance office building? I'm not saying that all code compliance inspectors have a problem with lust or greed or wrath or gluttony or sloth or envy. But right there on top is pride. And it's at the top of the organization that we seem to have a problem. The director of code compliance thinks his people are the best trained in the state.
Yeah, our inspectors are some of the best trained actually as far as code enforcement officers in the state.
But yet, follow me and I'm going to show you differently. Allow me to introduce you to a fine young man. His name is Chessie B. Collins. This is a photo from his LinkedIn webpage. And again, we can go back over here to LinkedIn. And here's the same photo here. And you can see that this is the right guy we're talking about. LinkedIn is a professional networking thing. He's Commercial Multifamily Code Compliance Inspector at the City of Austin. Currently, he works for the City of Austin in the Army National Guard. His experience in the background, we got the city seal here. And this is basically November of 2014. So he just barely has got 1 year and 2 months with the Austin Code Department. And this is his experience here, but actually what it is just his job description. Let's see what our employment records show for Mr. Collins. All right, this is a citywide list. Chessie Byer, B-Y-E-R, Collins, is a Code Compliance Inspector A with the Code Compliance Department. He's a white male. He was hired on November the 17th of 2014. His annual salary is $45,115.20. So here on LinkedIn is where you network with other professionals. Engineer Liaison Officer, Army National Guard. Executive Officer, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. First Lieutenant, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. This sounds like a pretty squared away young man. Somebody who is protecting our country and seems professional in all standards. On the opposite end of the spectrum from LinkedIn, which we just looked at, which is a professional networking tool, we have Facebook. Facebook is, and I'm a member of Facebook, it's where we all post what's going on in our life. And it's a tool that is commonly used by the Code Compliance Department and other agencies to get a feel for who you're dealing with, what this person is about. And in this case, we want to look at Mr. Collins because he is a Code Compliance Inspector, who is given a badge and a uniform and the authority to come onto your property. So let's get a quick glimpse at about Mr. Collins. When we go here, work in education, unlike LinkedIn, he hasn't listed anything here. He doesn't want anybody to know anything about him on Facebook, where he works. And city employees are kind of discouraged from doing that. It says he lives in Killeen, but again, Facebook doesn't have to be factual. There's a lot of people who post things on Facebook that are not factual. So we can go to timeline. Let's see what he's up to. So in March of 13, evidently, and again, this is most likely a photo that he posted, obviously. Doesn't say it's him, but somebody is enjoying a drink when they're skiing. And then this person enjoys hunting. This is his profile photo. Live music venues. Enjoys a little golf. Fan of football. Again, all right, National Guard. We know from LinkedIn our guy is in the National Guard. And so Fridays do get a little freaky at the National Guard. Baseball, great, All-American sport. Self-titled photo called Green Man. And it evidently has to do with skydiving, perhaps. Nice little view here. So we're seeing a well-rounded photo until we get to this. Now, this one is not tagged, and you can tag yourself here. And he doesn't say anything here in the memos. 3 more comments. And albino Arabic. So he doesn't say anything in here. This is posted on his page. I can't say for sure that this is him, but this causes me a little bit of concern. If this is an individual who is a code inspector, a city employee who's coming to my house or your business to do an investigation, we want this person to be professional. We want him to be an adult, and somehow dressing like this, posing with a rocket-propelled grenade launcher, or a rocket of some sort, obviously at a National Guard facility, leads me to question his character. But again, Facebook is a place to play on, and things do get freaky on Friday at the National Guard. So let's jump into it, and let's look at a case log and see how this young man performs on the job. This is a code compliance case log obtained through Open Records. It is for 11005 Anderson Mill Road. The complaint is the second reporting of an assisted living home advertisement. Someone's concerned about how this business is advertising. It was sent to Marcus Ramos on September the 7th and transferred to Chessie Collins, who I just introduced you to. All right. Here's our young code inspector on September the 8th. So this number here is when he logs in and he does this. When he does his narrative, he logs into the Amanda system, and this is how it logs in. Who's doing the work, action being taken, the date. The narrative is September the 8th, signs removed by Officer Collins under the interpretation that banner signs are illegal in the city of Austin and signs placed in the right-of-way are illegally placed, and that code inspectors have the authority to remove signs in the right-of-way. I think he meant a man, approached me from behind the fence after the signs were removed and explained that the signs were advertising the assisted living facility behind the property, right behind the fence. I informed the man of the illegality of the banner sign. He explained that an officer, a code officer, in 2011 told him that he could have a banner sign as long as it had a wood backing and a border. I told him I would research the topic, but was not aware of this regulation. I gave him the signs back and gave him my card. I was unable to do a more thorough inspection of the area at the time of the inspection because of the confrontational demeanor of the individual. So the next day, on September the 9th, he says he re-inspected. It says Collins re-inspected. He's writing it in the third person. The property and took better photos of the sign to determine the location in the right-of-way. Collins also knocked on the door to get a better understanding of the business being run out of the residence. The property is zoned development reserve, and it is assisted living facility. I gave the employee who answered the door my card and asked her to tell the owners that I apologize for the misunderstanding the day prior, and gave her my card to have the owners call me if they have any further questions. He cites no violations, and he just closed the case. And then he actually gives references to the signs down in here. There's several problems with this. First off, he's a code inspector, not an officer. We've got a young man who's been dressed up in a uniform with a badge, given some authority. He's interpreting the banner signs, and he's going up and ripping people's private property apart under his presumed authority. The second day, when he goes back and he knocks on the door to get a better understanding of the business being run out of the residence. That's not what he's there for. I gave the employee who answered the door my card and asked her to tell the owners. He never identified who he talks to. This is one of the things they tell him right off the bat. Or you're talking to somebody, your case logs have to show, I knocked on the door, a woman answered, she identified herself as a caregiver, her name was Mary Jane Smith. I asked Miss Smith if the owners were home, yada-yada. He didn't do any of that. He made it sound like, oh, it's very nonchalant. Let's take a look at his photos and see what he actually did here. So here's his photo case log of the day. We'll close this out. So luckily he took 4 photos. On September the 9th of 2015, it says 16:15, which is 4:15 in the afternoon. He shows up, and then here's a fence line. Here is a piece of plywood. There is a banner sign here, and it's inside of a frame up against a fence, and a banner sign here on the wall. His next photo shows this sign is missing. Not only is this sign missing, the frame has been damaged. And if you look along this line right here, along the top edge, he's cut the sign out of the frame. He's damaged the property, and he's cut the sign out of the frame. Now, this is a doctor photo. He takes a picture of the front of the property. You're always supposed to reference that. But this is the next day. This is the next morning at 7:16 when he's on the property. So he was there at 4 o'clock. Was it 4? 1600? 1600, 4 o'clock. Then he's back at 7 o'clock in the morning taking photos. I'm sure the people aren't even up yet. Now, again, the second day, he's taking photos. Here's the fence that he took off of. Here's the road. The right-of-way ends right here at the edge of the sidewalk. How could he not know that that fence was on private property? And again, just to be sure, he takes a photo here, still showing the damaged frame and the sign that he cut out. This is on private property. Let's take a look at the right-of-way signs. So first off, we're going to look at this. You can do an open records request, and I said, I would like to inspect the training records for Code Inspector Chessie Collins, as well as any training material, department policies used to educate code employees in these areas. Right-of-way, how to determine what is the legal right-of-way, bandit signs, and banner sign enforcement. I'm told that our records show that Mr. Collins attended the class on prohibited signs and right-of-way signs on March the 3rd of 2015. Again, he's only been on the job less than a year, or right about a year. He came out in November, and March the 3rd of 2015, he attends these classes. So I know that he's got this class. Let's see what the class says about right-of-way signage. Okay? Again, anybody can do this. This is the presentation given on March the 3rd by Investigator Dial from the Austin Code Department. And it talks about all the different kind of signs and how evil signs are. And we spend a lot of money putting young men like Mr. Collins in cars, big F-150 trucks. And they talk about the right-of-ways usually from this expansion joint. And they talk about expansion joints in residential property and commercial property. It's over this way, and right-of-way medians. But here they talk about signs not in the right-of-way. This sign here, you see the sidewalk, you see the little grassy area here, and the street. These signs are not in the right-of-way because they're on this side of the public sidewalk. Signs not in the right-of-way. Mr. Collins took this class, passed this class, and yet he went on to somebody else's property and removed a sign. The ABCs of sign removal, they say, make a quick assessment to determine if the signs are in the right-of-way. Pick up the signs just before you leave the area. Take the confiscated signs to the City of Austin facility dumpster. Okay? Avoid conflicts with citizens. Make every effort to avoid conflicts. Leave if possible. Run away. Don't let them catch you vandalizing their property. Call APD and then report to your manager. And then there's some other things about disposing of signs. Now, they have a pilot program here. Signs in the right-of-way associated with a business. This sign was associated with a business. Even if he thought it was in the right-of-way, he should have included the information in giving 48 hours for compliance in a warning notice. This is what he should have done if he thought it was in the right-of-way. He didn't even do that. Let's go back and look at the sign again. Here's the sign before the act of vandalism happened. It's Lou's house. Somebody's vandalized it already and put a Y on it. It's an assisted living center. He knows it's an assisted living center. He knows it's a business. By policy that he took, we know he took it. We just saw the PowerPoint that he watched. He was supposed to give this owner 48-hour notice with a warning. Had he done that, he would have been educated. But instead of doing that, he took it upon himself to cut the sign out of the frame, damage the frame, and take this other sign and try to run away before he got caught. But the owner caught him and said, "What are you doing to my property?" And then he had to go back and apologize.
Yeah, our inspectors are some of the best trained, actually, as far as code enforcement officers in the state.
This is a clear case of somebody who is not properly trained. Well, let's take that back. He was properly trained. We just saw that he received the classes. But he's not following protocol. Therefore, he's not properly trained. All right, let's wrap this up. We're back to the sign of the 7 deadly sins. First off, may I say, I think Mr. Collins, I've never met the man, has potential. He can most likely grow into and become a good city employee. I think we can demonstrate that you can have a class once, and then if there's no follow-up, if there's no oversight, you're going to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. The problem is we're dressing up young men and women in a uniform, putting a badge on them, and giving them responsibilities of a pseudo law enforcement agency to go out and enforce the city codes. Unlike an Austin police officer who will spend months and months in classroom and have training before they're turned loose on the street, that's not the case here with Austin Code. Austin Code Director Carl Smart will get in front of the city council and assure them that his people are the best trained in the state. That's simply not true. Just because you take a class once doesn't mean you're going to retain that knowledge. More importantly, the supervisors above Mr. Collins and the other inspectors need to review their case logs, need to look at it and with a critical eye and make these employees better so they don't make the same mistakes time and time again. This all comes back to Carl Smart and Carl Smart's pride. We've been trying to work with Mr. Smart for several years. He refuses to do anything about it. I think that's a character flaw, personally, with Mr. Smart. If Mr. Smart will not change, then perhaps a change is needed. Now it's up to City Council and the Assistant City Manager, and more importantly, the City Manager, Mark Ott, to start reviewing these videos that we're posting online and come to the understanding, like I have, and hopefully I've shown you, that there is a need for an audit of the Austin Code compliance. And not like we've done before. Let's not spank them on the hand. Change is needed, and change needs to start at the top down. If Mr. Smart is unwilling or unable to make those changes, then it's the Assistant City Manager and the City Manager who must make those changes.